Come on. Well, we're here. It is 11:47 p.m. We are a few hours removed from the devastating loss that the Rams just faced at the hands of the undermanned San Francisco 49ers to give the Rams their first and only divisional loss because that's their first time. I am joined by a real journalist, Brock Vieira of Rams on SI, to talk about what the hell happened to the Rams and honestly break down how they lost. You are here on First and Tuna. I am your host, Tuna. Everyone, welcome, Brock. Welcome back, Brock. How you doing after that?
I'm doing good. Lots to digest, lots to read about, lots to discuss, but I'm feeling I don't know. Honestly, I mean, as a unbiased, guy watching for the press box, I just thought to myself, what is going on? Like, how does this keep happening? Like, I genuinely thought Jerry Rice is like Kendrick Bourne's dad or something, and he just like kind of pops up in divisional play. But like I said, lots to talk about, and let's just dive into it.
So let me ask you, as part of the media pool in the press box there. First of all, how do you? I'm not even talking about biases. What was the atmosphere like? Like, obviously, it was loud. There was a lot of Niners fans, but from the press box and then from a little bit that you had, like kind of behind the scenes, the energy from the team after the game. What was the mood like?
So going to the press box, I think a lot of us were just stunned throughout the course of the game, and we can discuss the critical points of that kind of made all of us just go, "What is going on?" Definitely the Kyle Williams fourth and one stop, the Kyle Williams fumble, things of that nature. But just throughout the entire game, I think a lot of us are struck by both how efficient the 49ers were and how inefficient the Rams were. And then as the game went on, we started to see some of these narratives that we've been thinking were going to happen, that we've been discussing, start to happen. And then the game obviously turned on its head in a variety of ways, leaving all of us looking at each other. That was like, what is going on? What are they doing? Why are they doing this? Things of that nature. When it comes to kind of the feeling, I'll just tell you guys what my experience was like. I'll take you guys an inside look. So as soon as the game ended and I finished up my story for the game, I immediately went down to the media room. And for those of you who don't know, it's the longest distance from the press box to the media room in the NFL is at SoFi Stadium, right?
That's
So
messed up.
basically, right, we're on like the seventh floor. We gotta go right down to the basement, and then as soon as you come out of the elevator, because the stadium is used for so many things, even the Chargers as well. The Chargers have their locker room, the Rams have their locker room, visitors' locker room. So everyone kind of disperses to their own press rooms that are attached to them. When we got to the press room, obviously feelings weren't great. For the first time in my career ever, we were allowed to go into the locker room before Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford took the podium.
Hmm.
That was one of the more confusing things that I experienced because typically the process is everyone gets in because everyone's kind of rushing because it is a far distance to get to the press room. Once you do get in, we wait. McVay comes in, Stafford comes in. Either McVay comes in and then we go to open locker room, or Stafford and McVay come in and then we go to open locker room. That didn't happen, which kind of signifies the entire night, and that was the things that should have happened didn't happen, and yeah.
That's weird. I did hear. So I did listen to the post game stuff. I did listen to McVay's comments. We're going to get into. First of all, I do have to commend you. The reason why I do like working with you is because the questions that you ask, always on topic, crazy respectful. I had a problem. There's some questions some guys ask, like, "Hey, Puka, how did you feel about that fourth down call? Do you think Kyron should have got the ball?" It's like, why are we asking players to throw each other under the bus? I'm not a fan of that. So thank you for always asking like appropriate on brand questions. That is really awesome of you. So one of McVay's comments, the first things he said was play calling was on him. And he went on to say that he was not prepared, or that the team was not prepared, and that's on him. Where is that coming from, and what went into this lack of preparedness? Like, what the hell happened?
So obviously the quick turnaround is the main factor, but at the same time, the 49ers had to deal with the exact same thing and they were
Yeah.
able to handle it. Two, the Rams got away with a lot against the Colts, where the 49ers didn't against the Jaguars. And obviously, we saw what happened after that game with Liam Cohen, former Rams offensive coordinator, and Robert Saleh. So the 49ers were definitely coming into this week a bit more motivated than the Rams could have been because they had just suffered that loss and then had that incident after the game. And then when you want to break things down, for these past 3 weeks, though I have been very impressed with the Rams product overall, they gave the game away to the Eagles. They got incredibly lucky against the Colts, and those cracks that they were able to mask exposed themselves on Thursday night when they were in an environment where the pressure was on. Because let's not mince words, that was a lot of 49ers fans throughout the stadium, and they make noise as they always do.
Yep.
They had a short week turnaround, and this was a familiar opponent and a defensive coordinator that knows McVay and LaFleur and everybody inside and out. So with all those factors, I think that's the reason why we saw what we saw. The lack of preparedness, I'm not exactly sure what he meant by that because when I was in the facility throughout this week, everyone was on their piece from what I could see. Everyone was on their P's and Q's. Everyone took this game seriously. Everyone was about it. And they were about it from the moment the Colts game ended. Like, as soon as that ended, they immediately jumped into treatment from right there. So I don't want to use the word lack of preparedness. More, they didn't expect the 49ers to bring what they did. When they got hit by it, they didn't respond in a typical way until the fourth quarter. And then when it was the critical times to capitalize, obviously they couldn't get the job done because they fumbled. Tyron Williams fumbled at the 1 yard line.
Yes, and I'm glad to hear that they were at least actually like prepared, approaching it the right way because it didn't feel that way. It did not feel, at least in the first half, with the defense. So I do want to start there with you. Regardless of how prepared they were, and as I'm looking at this photo on the screen, it's kind of cool watching the turf kick up underneath Mac Jones there. Nice shot. Zero pass rush in the first half. It felt there was no energy. After the game, Stafford commented that, energy felt fine. But I'm just having a hard time believing that. And obviously the 49ers, all credit to them. They came out firing. They were the hot rod that like got off the line 0 to 60 in no time. The Rams, and they tend to be doing this, it seems like it, or an old school Chevy. It's classic. It's great when it gets running, bro. It is fantastic, but it takes a little while. You gotta let it run in the morning. You gotta get it warmed up.
Yeah.
What lackadaisicalness? Like, where is that coming from in the first half? Like, the Niners came out firing. They look like the perennial playoff team. They look like the NFC West champions, and it did not seem like the defense had the juice that we were expecting in this game. I didn't know if you had any comments on that sense of energy in the first half.
So I think there's multiple factors that kind of go into that. And the first one is I think we have all overlooked the impact the loss of Ahkello Witherspoon has had on this defense. When Witherspoon was on the field and Emmanuel Forbes was able to play the kind of that cornerback 2 role in that 3-man rotation with Kobe Durant, their defense as a unit was sound. Ever since he went out against the Titans, that hasn't been the case. And then, as much as I love not as much as I love the game and the way he plays, as much as I respect Darius Williams, the man and the player, there is a clear reason why he was left out of that rotation, and we're starting to see it now. I was hoping earlier in the season that maybe the Rams were overthinking it, especially when he was able to come in and create that critical pass breakup against Elick El-Manor against the Titans. But as the season has kind of gone on, we're starting to see why he wasn't part of that rotation. Alongside that, we saw a heavy dose of Kobe Durant early. That wasn't working out. And then when Emmanuel Forbes was asked to come up and make a tackle, he couldn't do that either. So it's just a straight structural letdown on the flanks. They did set the tone from the jump. I think that getting Christian McCaffrey, the amount of touches that they had early, was another critical factor because it forced the Rams, especially the front seven, to kind of lock in on him, which exposed the defensive secondary. You also couldn't play your 2 high safety shell. You have to have Cam Kirk coming down the box a lot because McCaffrey was such a threat. And then
Mhm.
Shanahan, being the offensive genius that he is, was able to kind of build everything off of that. Along that fact, the fact that the Rams, I understand that Rams defensive doctrine is do not get beat deep. I get it and I respect it. Mac Jones doesn't have a bazooka arm, but
They
what he
weren't gonna
does
do
have
that.
is the right. He does have a precision arm, and it's clear ever since college when he's under an offensive coordinator that is just a tiny bit above average, he does well. He did it at Alabama with Steve Sarkisian. He did it at New England his first season as a rookie with
Mhm.
Josh McDaniels as the OC. It got to the point where people were starting to say this is the second coming of Tom Brady. Obviously, that was premature,
Made a Pro
and
Bowl.
you made a Pro Bowl, and then you
Yeah.
saw what you saw tonight, right? And the beautiful part about the Shanahan offense and what I really respect about him is, first of all, Shanahan and McVay, two top tacticians in the game. And I believe that Shanahan's greatest strength is his preparedness and his team's preparedness to handle every situation early on, especially with the scripted plays.
Yeah.
What his offense, he needs certain critical pillars, and the rest of it, as long as they have certain attributes, they can kind of plug and play things. And that's why they're able to make the transition from Brock Purdy to Mac Jones. That's why they were able to make the transitions along their offensive line throughout the years outside of Trent Williams and Joe Staley. That's why they're able to kind of plug and play different receivers. That's why Demarcus Robinson had a great day and his return to SoFi Stadium.
God,
Kendrick
it's so
Bourne had a
brutal.
phenomenal day, right? Because if you have that one cut running back that can make things happen like Christian McCaffrey, if you have that guy like Trent Williams, if you have a solid pass catching tight end who can assist as a blocker, everything else kind of just fits together naturally. Shanahan played Shanahan football, which he always does against the Rams. Back when Aaron Donald was playing, run the ball hard at them. They're not going to be able to sustain it. The defense is not going to be able to sustain that constant pressure. And when they bring in extra reinforcements, that's going to open up natural passing lanes for your quarterback to exploit. That's exactly what happened. And for the Rams defensive doctrine, as I mentioned, not taking the top off, having that safety play high and not having the ability to trust your corners or even just straight up run man coverage, it allowed Jones
Mhm.
to play comfortable, to play within his throwing zone. And that's why he was able to pick the Rams apart. And because of he was able to pick the Rams apart in their regular coverage, I think that's what prohibited Shula mentally from bringing more blitzes like we typically like to see him do.
Yeah, it's easy to be reactionary, but like, oh, hey, man, I played Madden. Like, just bring cover zero. But I do have some thoughts to that because clearly they're not going to take the top off. Like, you don't want to put Mac Jones in a situation where he's sitting in the pocket too long because no, like, he's already hurt. If he gets hurt and leaves the game, you're in a situation like they were in the NFC Championship game a few years ago, where you're asking Christian McCaffrey basically to play quarterback at that point. They weren't going to go down the field. Their system was, let's get 4 or 5 yards at a time, sustain long drives, and play keep away. If you're going to play back, we're going to take whatever it is. Even if we can't run, these short little passes to McCaffrey are the same thing as run plays. Like, McCaffrey ended with 8 receptions, 82 yards, and a touchdown. I consider almost all of those, except I think there was a wheel route in there as well. Those are all runs. Those are all dink and dunk, 2 or 3 yards, either over the middle or out swing by the hashes. That was their run game. And they tested like, okay, can you guys tackle? Clearly, it's still an issue. And you raised a good point, and I ranted about it multiple times online already. I don't know what it is. We're looking at it from the outside, but as a fan and as media, it feels like Rams defenses, when they go against Shanahan, is always reactionary and just waiting to see what happens. They're never the agitator. They're never the instigator, pressing the issue. And it drives me insane. That's why you get the labels of McVay's defense are more finesse versus Shanahan's teams are the power ones. They're the bullies. And it plays out that way. And like, dude, Kendrick Bourne, 10 receptions, 142 yards. I don't know if did you have him in fantasy? Because somebody is excited today.
Somebody had a great day
Oh
with
my
him.
God.
But
10 receptions,
but
142 yards. That
yeah,
go ahead. I'm gonna keep rambling otherwise.
no, I do apologize for it. That's not what I mean to do. But Kendrick Bourne, first of all, well done to you, sir, Mr. Bourne. Phenomenal day. But this
Yeah.
is not the first time we've seen a 49ers wide receiver go crazy against the Rams, especially at SoFi. Last year, Jawan Jennings in the same role did the same thing. So when you're able to, like I said, replace players, that's schematic issue. A schematic issue right there. And then to Christian McCaffrey, and why I think Shula was hesitant to bring the blitz. Let's say you have McCaffrey out as your valve. Well, who's going to make that tackle on? Let's say he just runs up to the flat, little pass to the flat. Who's going to make that tackle? If Quentin Lake is covering him, I trust him. But when it comes to the other corners, Williams or Forbes or Durant, they're not going to be able to make the tackle. But if Lake has to cover him, then that's going to expose another part of your defense, especially if Cam Crow's already playing inside the box because he can't play up deep. So then are you going to trust Emmanuel Forbes or Kobe Durant or Williams to guard that deep ball? Because we saw what happened last week when they threw that deep ball to Adonai Mitchell, right? Mitchell almost took it to the house. He should have took it to the house. Again, it kind of goes back to Akello Witherspoon. Witherspoon was the key to that entire cornerback room because he was able to cover. He was able to come down and blitz. He was able to make tackles in open space or at least force the ball carrier to either the rest of the defense that's pursuing or to the sideline, right? So when the 49ers are able to get the ball in their hands and able to run to the outside and make plays, that's going to open up your inside. When you're guarding the inside, that's going to open up your outside. And no matter what pieces you want to put forth or what players you want to change in or change out, it just doesn't change the fact that their inability to trust their secondary to not get beat deep cost them the game from a defensive standpoint. To their credit, they did a great job in the second half. However, the lack of punting from the 49ers this game was unacceptable if you want to win these close ones. They did come up with that big stop in overtime to force a field goal. They did come up with several stops throughout the game, especially when Ty Williams fumbled.
Brutal.
But at the end of the day, this, in my opinion, this was probably. I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not counting last week. Not last week. I'm not counting the regular season finale last year against the Seahawks when the Rams were resting their starters. But this was the most exposed the defense was ever since Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills last season. And they just had all those different elements.
That's accurate. I mean, I think a lot of people are willing to overlook that because it's Josh Allen. You kind of expect MVP. You're expecting firepower, and it's masked by the fact the offense outscored them. Like, they had a phenomenal day, so all is okay. That's just the style of the game. When you have a situation like this, and we'll transition off the defense here in a minute because I want to talk about the offense. The defense, like, we were used to this in LA, the bend but don't break. Like, with Raheem Morris, did it a bunch. We have very similar models because back then it was Aaron Donald. Now it's Jared Verse and everyone else in tandem. The difference is you had a playmaker in the secondary. I think Quentin Lake deserves all the money in the world, needs to come back here. He's very integral to the secondary. He plays a role, though. He doesn't play outside corner. Back in the day when, all right, cool, you're having a game like this, pass rush can't get there, bend, but then Jalen Ramsey makes a play. But then Marcus Peters makes a play. You have a game changer where, all right, at some point, he's good enough to have a wider margin of error so that way when someone like this is having a game, he could say, nah, that's enough. I'm going to jump a route and I'm going to pick something off despite the system. And yeah, the system is, I don't know, man. This is his second year as DC. You've got your guys. You went through that change last year where the first half was bad. The second half of the season, everyone thinks the world of this defense. There's no excuse for this. People are starting mumbling to talk about, oh man, Chris Shula, he's going to get a head coaching job if he keeps having a defense like this. Not like this. Yeah, I don't know how you feel. I don't want to get in the conversation of bringing in somebody, the conversations are allowed on Twitter of go trade for someone, get another corner. That's a conversation for another day. But yeah, the bend but don't break only works if you have somebody in the secondary that can eventually just say that's enough and get a turnover. Otherwise, you're just delaying the inevitable. Might as well just let them score in the first play and give your offense a chance more often. It's that bad. But in regards to, I want to switch gears.
Well, actually, I might just say something to kind of wrap the statement up on defense.
Yeah.
So, one, I don't even think a trade can be made at this point because what does that market look like, honestly, for quarterbacks right now? Plus, the
Yeah.
Rams have some cap issues that you gotta kind of have to consider, especially since they're about to spend a whole bunch of money this offseason on contracts, especially for future contracts, because that 2023 class is about to come, that bill is about to come due for them. They're
Yeah.
about to enter the first window for negotiating extensions. But first of all, I've been on the Chris Shula is going to be a head coach train forever. I saw it
Mm,
last year after the second touchdown by the Minnesota Vikings in that Thursday night game, right? When the defense showed up, shut everything down, and they kind of rode that all the way. They did have a couple bad games. The Buffalo one, the Miami game, but for the most part, especially because that latter end of the season, when the offense was just non-existent, they weren't allowing more than 10 points a game for a stretch of the
yep.
time. So I still think Shula's a phenomenal defensive coordinator. You won't find a bigger supporter of him being a head coach than me. I think that he has all the stuff. He knows how to scheme things up. He knows how to coordinate players. He knows how to communicate with them. He knows how to build a team culture. And he knows how to build a strong coaching staff around him. The problem is right now, if we were in the playoffs going against a Detroit Lions team, a Philadelphia Eagles team, 49ers again, are we able to say for sure this defense can step up and win those 2-3 games to win the NFC and then again to win the Super Bowl? I think the front seven, yes. I think at times the secondary, yes. Until you replace the elements that Keller Witherspoon brought, this is going to happen again. It won't happen
Yeah.
often. It's not going to happen against every team because the 49ers are a great team and a phenomenally coached. But so are the Eagles, so are the Lions, so are the Packers, right? And then my big question is obviously this team has Super Bowl ambitions. McVay has never defeated Matt LaFleur, ever,
Nope.
as a head coach. McVay has lost to Dan Campbell in the playoffs, 2023. Lost to Sirianni, all that stuff. What is that one thing that we don't see right now? What is that one thing he can pull on defense to change the narrative of this? The offense, we know what that card is. That's going to be Terrence Ferguson. I'm going to dive into that in a second. But on defense, who did you draft this year on defense? Josiah Stewart, who's been a revelation. Love Josiah Stewart. Phenomenal. But he plays inside the box, the part that you don't need help at right now. You have Ty Hamilton. Same thing. Plays in the box. Don't need help in that place, in that spot
Talking
right
about
there.
Sean Dolak?
No,
No.
I'm saying, even Dolak as a UDFA, he's playing the box. He's not
Yeah.
going to be effective. Or Paul. They have nobody that they can bring
Yeah.
in that can change things up unless they think Trey Brown is going to someday be that guy. I don't know. I don't know
I
enough about what they think about him because he's been there for only a few weeks.
yeah.
Maybe he can possibly be that guy. I don't know that yet. But when you talk about what's the other option we can go to right now, they don't have one. And that's what really, to wrap up your point and also mine, that's what
Yeah.
concerns me. Because the trade market is not great. They're probably not going to spend any of the first rounders on a cornerback. Their financial situation is not going to allow them to go out and get them. In my opinion, from what I've heard and what I've read and what I've seen, who I've spoken to, the money was the big thing stopping the Rams from getting Jalen Ramsey in the first place. So they're not going to go out and get Jair Alexander again. Like, what team is going to be bad enough that has that good corner that needs to sell them quickly?
Yeah, and the only names that pop up that's kind of news for me. What it sounds like from what you're saying is this might be the team. Like this is who you got. You're gonna have to figure it out. Like
this is exactly what I'm saying. This is the team. So if you can't plug and play another piece, what do you do schematically to change the tide of everything that's going on? I don't know that answer.
No,
I talk
that's
behind
fair.
a screen. I'm not a defensive war room, but they got to figure it out, and they got to figure it out quickly.
Yeah,
or it's gonna get bad quickly.
At the end of the day, we are just football internet nerds with pens. That's all we are. But I don't know, man. I feel like I watched enough football where like you hope for something a little bit different. The last thing I'll say about the defense is like at some point when you're realizing, all right, we can't stop him in the pass anyways. Mac Jones is on half a leg. I'm gonna send some 1 and 0 at him. I'm gonna see like, can you actually evade anything at all? I'm gonna make it infinitely harder for you. I wanted to see a little bit more of that, but that's just the reactionary in me. But I love what you said about the DB situation. Like a lot of fans are gonna have to just kind of be happy, like, hey, this is what you got. You better hope they make some adjustments. And I'm sure they will make adjustments. it is just frustrating to watch it happen on the big stage like that. Yeah, let's gear over the two big topics on offense, so that we're not sitting here for 3 hours, because we definitely fucking can. You want to do Kyron Williams, or you want to talk about fourth down? What do you want to start with?
Let's do the running back room, because we can talk about Blake Corum as well. So let's fire away. Let's go for it.
All right. So we love Kyron. He is a phenomenal human being. He is an integral. He's part of the engine that gets this offense going. They could not get it going, nor has it been explosive as promised heading into the season. It's been functional. It's served its purpose in the games through 5 weeks. This week, it really felt non-existent. It didn't set anything up. It was just kind of there. Like, there were some draw plays that worked. There was one real nice run that Kyron had that he cut back to the right. And it's like, oh, damn, the momentum's back on the Rams. We're getting going. And then he gets down to the one, and all the Rams fans that have been like waiting, they're just perennial Kyron Williams haters, and I get it. He fumbled. Phenomenal punch out by them. That was a hell of a play by the defender, and it couldn't have happened to a worse person than Kyron. Like, if it was Blake Corum, I don't think it'd be as loud, because it's Kyron. Once or twice, shit happens, but it happens multiple times. I don't know what you do in that situation. Is it, because he gets so much quantity in carries? Is it because of the lineman and it's just not getting going? I just want to hear from you. What do we do with the running back room? They've got Jarquez Hunter there. Blake Corum is just a mirror image of Kyron. Like, it just kind of feels uninspired, like not as explosive as we thought, because the pass game is crazy. But yeah, take it away, man.
So I have two trains of thought. One, I want to second every word you said about Kyron Williams.
Yep.
From my experience talking with him, watching him practice, this guy's definition of a consummate professional. Great to speak to. I apologize if you hear a cat yelling. That's my lady's cat, and he's old, so he's kind of going a little senile right now. So I do apologize. But
he's just pissed about the game. That's all it is.
Probably. I don't blame him, honestly. Then he got a parlay or something going, and he got blown up. I don't know. But, I mean, if he did have a parlay, I hope if he did win, he starts to give us a little money for all his food and stuff, because he has expensive taste. But that's neither here nor there. Kyron is the best, but at the end of the day, you need to be able to hold on to the football. I remember I did a study with some people. I unfortunately, the name has slipped my mind. I do apologize to them, but they ran the analytics behind Kyron Williams' fumbles issues, and it basically came down to this: he fumbles against the best turnover creating defenses. It's really that simple. It's not fatigue. It's not anything else. It's just the fumbles come against best turnover creating defenses, and that's exactly what happened tonight. Kyron Williams is a unique talent who needs to be used a lot more in the passing game, because he was great tonight. He did have some drops. One was just whoa. But after the fumble, I think to his credit, what we don't talk about was after that fumble, when everything's going wrong for him, when this is worst case scenario, he responds instantly with 2 critical catches to force a game tying field goal, and then 2 more catches in overtime to put the Rams in position to go and win that football game. So I think that needs to be talked about too. I'm not putting this so much on Kyron Williams, even though a lot of blame does have to go on him for that single play, the fumble. Yeah. This is a massive issue with the Rams rushing attack. And it's been like that for years. I've been saying this from before I worked here at Rams on SI, when I was back with Rams Wire, which is the Rams need a fullback. And they need to have some big blocking tight ends to make this whole thing work, right? I don't know why.
Shanahan has a fullback for a reason.
He has multiple fullbacks. He can take out Juice Chicken slide one of his other tight ends. And the system works. I don't think it's something that they need to run all the time, but there's zero, what's the right word? It just doesn't look like a power offense, because it isn't. When your power blockers are Jordan Whittington and Puka Nacua, when your lead blocker often is Puka Nacua, when you in week 1 were lining up Jordan Whittington as a fullback, that says you don't have the ability to control the line of scrimmage. And then they don't. Then you look at the offensive line. I have a bunch of respect for those guys on the offensive line. From a front office standpoint, there hasn't been that investment into the offensive line that we would have liked to see for quite some time.
Yeah.
Obviously, they re-signed Alaric Jackson this offseason. One of the best signings because I think that for the production he gives, he has one of the best value contracts from a team standpoint in the NFL. When Steve Avila is healthy, and that's a big if, especially this season, he's great. Again, I apologize for my cat. It's Cena.
Oh, don't worry about it, man.
Yeah,
The
but
it's
when
before we
I look at
go
the
ahead.
sorry, I just want to make it at this point. When I look at Kyron Williams' best season, which is 2023, that season did coincide with the Rams making an investment into their offensive line, and that was trading for Kevin Dotson. Right, the introduction of Dotson helped pave the way, and we saw it. But you have Rob Hammerstein, who is a few seasons away at most from retirement. Right, he's the guy that was playing in St. Louis. There's no backup plan for him right now unless they want to roll with Warren McClendon. And I'm not too sure that that's the route they want to go with. When you look at the center position, there hasn't been a lot of stability there for a long time. And I kind of think this all the way back to 2018, well, after that season, when John Sullivan didn't get re-signed by the Rams. And I think they decided to go with Brian Allen as a starter. To me, outside of quarterback, the second most important position on offense and honestly on a team is the center because they can dictate so much on the inside from a physical standpoint, but also their ability mentally as a signal caller can take so much off the shoulders of the offensive line. They did bring back Coleman Shelton, decent center, no issues with him, but it just feels like a continuation of what has been instead of an active approach towards improvement. And that's why we're not seeing that 2023 production from Kyron Williams anymore. And even though, unlike 2024, when they had all those injuries to the wide receiver room, when defenses were able to kind of stack the box against Williams, so they had to grind out that other 1,000-yard season, they can't do that anymore. And those lanes should be open. So this is all about dictating the line of scrimmage. But they don't have a power rushing attack. They don't have the pieces to establish it. They don't have a fullback. Look at the tight end room. Tyler Higbee, who's older and hurt. Corey Parkinson, a little bit older, not the greatest blocker in the world. Davis Allen, young guy, kind of improving, great as a catcher, but where is that force? I'm not saying they have to go out and get a guy like George Kittle, but there's a lot of roster mellies, and they just don't have that. And when you have fourth and one situation to end the game, when the 49ers know what they're going to run,
zero confidence that they're going to get it. I see what you're saying. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and like 49ers, they're all keyed in on the play. There was no doubt what was going to happen. Nobody in the press box was surprised at the play. Nobody on the field was surprised at the play. They just got beat at the line of scrimmage, and this is because I think the scheme isn't working anymore for the rushing game, and it hasn't worked in some time. Two, the lack of investment is prevalent in terms of long-term investment. And three, most importantly, they just don't have the plug-and-play pieces that the 49ers had to sustain attack on the ground, so they had to go to the air. But then when you get into those situations, those short yardage situations, same thing that happens to all aerial attacks. You just can't convert, and that's exactly what happened.
It's I'm glad you raised that point because it's not as simple as just like, oh, block harder, block better. And I can't believe that I wasn't thinking about it heading into the season because everyone was focused on Alaric Jackson. If health barring, right? Like we love Avila, we love Dotson. Coleman Shelton is there and he's doing a decent job. Rob is constantly hurt. Avila is now becoming, it's like, how many games has he missed in the last 2 seasons? The lack of investment, like you're talking about, I think is not being talked about enough. And I think where McVay's mindset is, where they're willing to cut corners in some areas in terms of, like you said, front office investment, where on defense it's the secondary. And for a while it was the middle linebacker position until they finally addressed it. On offense, it is those like high draft pick offensive linemen, those big ticket guys. It's all right, we got guys we like to fit in the system. We'll make do because Matthew Stafford. They rely so much on Matthew Stafford as a coach on the field to put him in the right looks. He's checking more than anybody else in the league at a constant rate to put him in the right position. Like that is basically what it is. Like, hey, the fact he has not been sacked more times this season is from him. I think the only person that constantly on film, I don't care about PFF grades and shit. that passes the eye test. Like, yeah, he's holding up his end. Alaric Jackson always does a good job. Kevin Dotson, when he's not getting tripped up by certain stunts and they're communicating well on that side. But it's Matthew Stafford. Either he's hitting the hot routes, he's moving around the pocket, he's changing the play. He's doing a decent job. Like, he's keeping them in these games. And look what happened in this game. No run game. Cool. I'm going to take over, and I'm going to make sure we stay in this game. And that's overcompensating for areas that they're missing in. And people are always going to point at the guy with the ball and going back to the run game, which is Kyron Williams. But the run, it's just not there. And it's evident through 5 games that we have enough of a sample size. Like, what's the most yards he's had in a game so far? I don't even know.
I think 91, I think, possibly.
Like, they get a decent yards per carry, like around 4, like 3.9 to 4.1, depending on the game. But it's not something you just lean on. You can't lean on people. And that's for McVay wanting to constantly say that's his bread and butter, that he wants to establish the run and then marriage the run and the pass together, like he always says. He's not doing it. And I don't know why that lack of investment is not there. And yeah, it puts you in those situations, like you said, 4th and 1, and you just don't get it. Whereas you look at a Philadelphia, like the best teams, Philadelphia Eagles, 4th and 1, they're going to fucking get it. Even without the tush push, you have confidence in the O-line that they're going to move mountains for you. San Francisco, despite all their issues, they're known for being a tough team. I assume they're probably going to get it short. The few times, like the one time they stopped Mac Jones short just because his knee hit, I wasn't confident they were ever going to stop it because you just expect that from San Francisco, and it's not that way for LA, and it's frustrating. Like, I'm cool with being an aerial assault. Like, dude, I love Matthew Stafford. I sit here and watch him throw the ball all day, but I also want the team to win games. Yeah, that's frustrating. And then you get down to brass tacks with the play call at the end. Dude, he has the hot hand. Like, am I crazy for not thinking, like, I would rather you line up in a fucking empty set, and I'd rather that game end on a pick 6 because you trusted Matthew Stafford to go to Puka or something rather than that. And I'll say, like, even if you don't want to say it, I know you can't say certain things, media, I will say it for the fans. You just go with the hot hand. We're not throwing anyone under the bus, but clearly the better play call was, hey, man, just who's balling right now? Roll with them. Yeah, that was interesting play calling at the end there.
Yeah, so I want to kind of dive into my full thoughts about the offense. One, I always wonder why in situations like that, why the Rams don't put an extra lineman on the field. DJ Humphries was
why
active.
Not? Yeah, why not?
Was active. Obviously, Buffalo is like the king of running the 6 offensive line formation. And I get you kind of want to give the 49ers the expression of, well, maybe we might pass because Stafford has a hot hand. But it's 1 yard. Like, if we're going to go mano-a-mano, I want my biggest guys out there. I don't want defensive linemen and linebackers coming downhill against Whittington and Puka Nacua. You know.
Yeah, let me find that. Go ahead. I'm gonna find. There's a top down view someone posted of that play. I'm just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and then, you know, I want to first say that I have such tremendous respect for Sean McVay, the Rams staff, the team, and the concepts and everything that they do. This season, though, there has been so many questions about this offense that I feel like we're just not getting enough answers to. And I'm going to kind of break down everything that I have questioned. One, the red zone offense. Obviously, it got a lot better today. And that's what I was hoping to write about before everything went sideways, right? Because they weren't efficient in the red zone. They were scoring touchdowns. It was vintage McVay, vintage Rams.
Yeah.
I go back to that first game, right? When they, first of all, the week of, or either the week of or the week before, we're talking about Vierra presser. He called Matthew Stafford a terrible sneaker, right? Then he calls quarterback sneak on the goal line. Give him a shot. No problem. It didn't work. Matthew Stafford is great at a lot of things. A lot of things. QB sneak is definitely not one of them. He's the only man I've truly ever seen in the NFL ride a wave sideways. Like, I don't understand how his body didn't propel forward. But hey, you gave it a shot. It didn't work. And then on that same drive, despite being at the 1 yard line, they halfback pitched it out to Kyron Williams like 6, 7 yards in the backfield, and Kyron had to like cut inside and make a desperate move to score. I just what is going on here? Do you not trust your ability to get forward penetration? And if you don't trust in that situation, week one, what has changed besides all your starters getting hurt? Entering this. Then we saw the QB sneak again last week against Colts. I asked McVay about it. He gave me a very short answer because he probably didn't want to talk about it. And that was, we had a look. We should have picked it up. This, and that. Okay. I mean, but it's just not working. Also, why isn't there that pushing element? Is it the back? Is it something else? Like, why? Something that the Eagles have done. I'm not saying a full tush push, but just something to get Stafford over the line. Why hasn't that been implemented? Then you start to look at kind of everything else. When it comes to the current construction of the offense, I'll say Blake Corum's better suited as a runner. The problem is he's just not that good. He's not as good as a blocker, so you can't really mirror the run and the pass, and that's why Kyron gets as many snaps as he does. What did Jarquez Hunter do to not get a single carry so far throughout the season? I remember last season, the Rams did not play Blake Corum in the preseason, and then they didn't play him throughout the whole season. It was just odd. Obviously, they played Hunter in preseason. They haven't really played him. They haven't played him at all as a running back throughout this season. And you and I, we were both at training camp. We saw it. The man has grit. The man is full effort. The man will run through.
That's the power back. That's the power back you want.
He's the power back you want. He's low.
Hey, put him at fullback. Go split backs.
Something, or maybe he's better for these short yard situations. I wrote a column saying that I think that he's the key to the end zone because he's smart with the football. He is able to power it through. But why? Right? Like, I'm not asking him to learn the whole offense. You're asking him to run one direction and protect the football. And that's what he's great at right now as a rookie. And obviously, I think he's going to develop into being a great, well-rounded back from what I've seen so far. Why hasn't he had any opportunities? And then it kind of breaks out into my bigger question about this offense. Why hasn't Terrence Ferguson been used? Why has he been inactive these past 2 weeks? Obviously, we saw the talent in Cleveland. He then goes and makes an even better catch today against the 49ers. And then I don't remember seeing him at all in the second half. Why is it? He's the gem, right? He's the thing that's going to take this McVay offense to the next level in this century. What's the delay on that?
That's what the tease was with the second round pick. They were going to take him in the first round, allegedly. I have thoughts on that. Allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. But when it comes to even this play right here, right? I thought for sure after they called timeout, one, why are you running halfback dive after 2 timeouts, one by the 49ers, one by the Rams? It's the most predictable thing with that formation and those players. But 2, I thought what they were actually going to set up was a fake play action to Kyron and then hit him on the flat with the pass and then have him run up the field. Obviously, that ended up not happening. And when you break it all down, we can blame Kyron for fumbling because that would have cost the Rams a game. Or we can blame the blocking on here because that would have cost the Rams a game. Or we can blame the defense. Or we can blame this or blame that or whatever.
All of it. Answer's yes to all.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, there's only a few spots throughout the entire season outside of the fourth quarter because they randomly turned on the fourth quarter where the Rams had played complementary football throughout the first 3 quarters. It's been the defense holding the line, and then the offense wakes up, or the offense is firing, and then the defense has to come through, or some kind of scenario in that way. The issues with this team right now are so unique and concerning because they should be fixable and they haven't been. 1 is stuff like this. 2 is a field goal blocking team. 3 has been sometimes on the kickoff returns, I think they leave too much of a gap in the seam and then like a seam like right up the middle. And sometimes the returns get exploited and kind of get out to the 35-40, if not even farther.
I've been seeing that a bunch a little bit.
I remember we were talking, right, when it comes to the operation of the field goal, not just the blocking, but the entire operation, it's very predictable. And then from a defensive standpoint, I look back at that week 3 game, and Shula's so desperate just to give Jalen Hurts a unique look. He's dropping Byron Young and Jared Verse in the coverage, trying to induce an interception because he's just trying to scheme up something to make up for some of these other flaws.
Yeah.
And none of these flaws seem fixable. What, 4 block kicks and 3, sorry, was it? Yeah,
3.
4 block kicks in the past 4 games or something like that. Cardi, some questions about his accuracy is getting brought up when it comes to that, the one that he missed with the leg.
What was it? What was that? 50 something?
I have no problem with Josh Cardi. I want to make that very clear, but I know some people
No.
about that.
What was that? That was 50 plus, right? How far was that field goal?
He made a 61er at Stafford, so I mean, it should be within range, especially if Aubrey them are making 65 yarders. But
yeah,
it's
missing a 50 plus. I'm not worried about it. There's some comments in here I do want to hit because I don't want people to think we haven't addressed them. Rusty here. So he said, I wonder why to have good quality backups. We actually just talked about 10 minutes ago. Brock just broke it down. It's the investment side. So I don't want to get back into it, Rusty, but we talked about it. It's the lack of investment from the front office at the offensive line because Matthew Stafford can my addition to it was Matthew Stafford can overcompensate for all that stuff and make average O linemen look great. Who else was in here? Either said it was a futures draft, not immediate starter draft. And on the Terrence Ferguson comment, that is true. I have heard other things about 2 other players they were chomping at the bit to get, but they went just before them, and then the ATL deal popped up. It's like you can't not take that. So both are, that is true, but there is more context to that as well. And it's funny, other people's contracts come into play with that stuff, with that draft. So it is very interesting.
So I just want to touch on a couple of those comments real quick. One with the offensive line. Let's look at the 7 NFC teams, or the 6 others that made the playoffs last season that weren't the Rams.
Yeah.
Philadelphia Eagles. They didn't really have to improve the offensive line because the offensive line was great. But if we looked at the years prior, they had seamless transitions from Isaac Seumalo, from Brandon Brooks, from Jason Kelsey, because they went out and got Jurgens and Dickerson, and they went out and got I think they traded for Mekhi Becton, however they acquired him. So they had been doing their offensive line. Detroit, we've known their investment in their offensive line. And then how did they handle the departure of Frank right now? It's because they drafted Tate Ratledge, who 2 separate SEC defensive linemen said was the best offensive lineman they ever went up against during the combine. That's why the Lions have been able to kind of manage that situation. Then you look at Green Bay. Obviously, the big trade this year was Michael Parsons. They also just paid Aaron Banks at $77 million. Last year, they picked up Jordan Morgan in the first. I think they had another lineman that they picked up like a couple years ago, something like that. But they also invested in their offensive line. Washington Commanders, they went and drafted Josh Carterly for their offensive line in this last draft. You look at the Minnesota Vikings, they went and got 2 offensive linemen from the Indianapolis Colts. I think it was Will Freeze and there's another interior offensive lineman, but the name is slipping me right now. I do apologize, but I think they picked up 2 guys, if I'm not mistaken. Again, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that was the issue with the Minnesota Vikings, the interior offensive line. So they went out and they invested. Who were the other playoff teams? What's the other playoff team? Oh, let's get it.
Washington.
Me. I mentioned Washington.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay did invest in their offensive line. Obviously, they paid worse. They got Cody Mauch. They got Godecki, and then they paid him. I think that's his name. Am I thinking the right? Am I thinking the right guy? Luke, whatever. They also invest in their offensive line. The Rams in 2024, they got Jonah Jackson, and that didn't work out, so they traded him. Okay. Yeah. And then this year, they're like, "Oh, we like what Bo Limmer's doing." Okay. Well, then we saw what happened. We really love Justin Dedich. Great. Let's see what happens. Oh, why do we keep? That's right, Donovan Jackson. Thank you, Mr. Smith. They addressed all 3 positions. I'm not expecting the Rams to do that, but throughout somewhere, right? At least try. And then the problem that really kind of irks me is I feel that the Rams as a team, from a team construction standpoint, they have the same philosophy for the offensive line as they do linebackers. And that is, we're going to get guys we kind of think are going to be good, and we're going to develop them. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And that's why sometimes you get Ernest Jones, and sometimes you get a guy who's not Ernest Jones. I'm not trying to say names, but I'm just saying. That's why I said, because honestly, there's probably everyone that's watching this all thought of a different guy because there's so many options. Same thing with the offensive line, right? Like, how do you replace Roger Saffold? How do you replace John Sullivan? And then you kind of keep going down the line. How do we replace Andrew Whitworth? Well, we're going to think Joe Noteboom is going to take over. Did that happen? Not successfully.
Yeah.
How do you go out and do this? How do you go out and do that? Well, if they stick to their methods, and that's why I don't want to sound crass, because that's never what I want to do, because I do have such tremendous respect for this team. Sometimes I do question if they're stuck in the past, if this organization is stuck like 4 or 5 years ago, and somehow mentally they're still stuck in 2021. Because
I don't know.
For them,
go ahead.
No, I just say for them to go out in that 2024 draft, which is great, right? One, the 2023 draft is phenomenal. But for them in 2024 to select Jared Verse with their first round pick, to go then trade up for Braden Fisk, right? To go bring in Kitchens and Corum and everybody. That I thought would jumpstart a new era. And then we come to this year where we know they tried to go out for Ted McMillan, where we believe heavily, at least I do, that they tried to go get Emeka Ibuka, right? And then obviously
another wide receiver and a running back.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
Yeah, but and then they go get Ferguson, great, but that it also passed Will Johnson twice. I'm pretty sure they could have used some reinforcements in that situation, in this one, and they passed up on a bunch of corners throughout the draft. And then I just keep thinking about that Paul pick. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. But he's not even anywhere near Los Angeles anymore. That could have been a pick used for another situation. Obviously, the team didn't know how that was going to work out, so they took a flyer. But, and then I look at what I see in practice. And what I tell you right now, Konate Mumpfield is one of the crispest route runners I've ever seen in live action. And then I see his utilization. I see the utilization on the field, and it's nothing of what I saw in practice. I'm just, what am I missing here? And that's kind of what I've been asking myself since week 1, since that Texans win. What's missing? Because the Rams got lucky. If Lyman doesn't punch that ball out, the Texans are driving straight to the end zone. Then you look week 2. If Byron Young doesn't punch that ball out, the Titans are rolling, right? Week 3, we saw what happened in Philadelphia. Week 4, Indianapolis. And Adonai Mitchell doesn't single-handedly take 14 points off the board, the Rams likely lose. And it's cool when the structure is strong enough, when the culture is strong enough to mask all these issues. But a playoff departure last season was acceptable because the team was growing. And 2023 is acceptable because the team was rebuilding. And 2025, I don't think the fan base is going to have that same stomach. And quite frankly, I don't think the coaching staff is either. Because I think they know what they got. So unless we see some
Super Bowl bust
full-scale changes, it is. So unless we see some full-scale changes in the way they approach things, it's gonna be blouses. The positive news, though, I don't been negative all night. The positive news that I want to share is this: the Rams have a Baltimore team next week who's reeling and are probably not gonna have Lamar Jackson unless something changes over the next couple days.
How'd that go this week? I know you try to be positive.
True, but I mean, I
go ahead.
have a lot more faith in Kyle Shanahan than I do Todd Monken.
Fair.
Then they play the Jaguars in London. Obviously, Cohen has the Jags rolling, but
that game worries
the
me.
Rams should win that one. Then they get a bye week. I think once they hit that bye week, and excellent, even better.
Ethan, that's what I'm talking about. I don't care who's out. We just saw what happened. It does not matter who's out. Like, you still got to play the game.
It does in the Baltimore offense. There's no way Cooper Rush is going to run for 50 yards on a dime against. But that also kind of leads into my other concern about the Rams defense, which is they haven't shown that they can handle two-threat quarterbacks. So Lamar being out is great, but if they go and play Jaden Daniels in the playoffs, if he gets healthy again, or if they go and take Jalen Hurts on again, or if they go do this and do that, and they got to focus primarily on stopping those guys.
Yeah.
It's going to open up the cornerbacks again. It's going to be a whole thing that we just spent an hour talking about. To wrap up this entire kind of rambling,
No, it's been like
these issues are
you've
fixable, and they aren't being
spoken at
fixed.
length,
And
but it's been good.
thanks,
Thank you.
sir. That's the problem that I'm really having right now. The issues are fixable. They haven't been fixed, and I'm not seeing the attempts made in a meaningful way. It feels like the same thing over and over and over again. And honestly, I feel like I've been watching the same thing from Sean McVay for the past 9 seasons. It was cool in 2018. It was cool in 2021. But the byproduct of being as good as you are at your Sean McVay is that everyone is trying to get the next you. So they steal all your assistants, and all the defensive coaches around the NFL have spent the last 9 years figuring out your system. What's that element that he's going to play that's going to change everything? In football, I believe this. Anarchy is going to happen. And when anarchy happens, chaos is a natural byproduct. It's up to you to either induce it or endure it. And for too long, I felt the Rams have endured it, and they haven't induced it in the way that they used to in prior years.
Like I just said, you spoke at length, but it was helpful because you are behind the scenes. You get to hear things. Like I hinted at with draft stuff. Some other folks in the media don't know how to not spill stuff, so that's why we know of information. That is a conversation for another day when certain players are not on the team anymore, and I would love to. Can't wait to talk about that stuff. But no, it is very helpful to hear. It's concerning. We'll wrap it up this way. I'm torn between two truths because we know McVay is capable of changing. We've seen it. He can do it. But like you said, there usually is a catalyst. Where I will counter and disagree with you is I don't think it's luck sometimes. Like, yeah, you put guys in the right positions. Plays do happen. Timing matters too. Like, I'm not going to count Puka Nacua as luck, but Puka Nacua was one of those catalysts. They've been able to evolve their offense to an extent to add that X factor. They may be overutilizing him a little bit, but it's fun to watch. But having this era of Puka, and I think them bringing in Devontae Adams is supposed to help evolve as well. But you're missing that run element. Like you said, you're missing that X factor on the offensive line. You're not getting the most out of your running back field. Like I honestly don't think, even if you had Derrick Henry in the backfield, I don't know if we see different results. And so that part, I do agree with you. There's not a force multiplier. Matthew Stafford is a force multiplier in the pass game, but so that we don't turn into what Detroit was for him for 12 years, that's what tonight felt like. The team was just not doing its thing. Matthew Stafford somehow came from behind. You're like, how the hell does Matthew Stafford do this? He looks like a Hall of Famer. And then they lose. That's what it felt like tonight. All those things that you talked about combined frustrates the hell out of me. It's very hard to find some positivity. So I do want to end this way because I don't want to take us too far over an hour. It is getting close to 1 a.m. for an emergency pod, but it was much needed. Thank you for coming on.
Yes.
I want to talk about how do you think they respond? What is a change that you believe they will make? I have my belief. I do think something like this and the leadership on the team will voice concern over certain positions needing to be addressed. I don't know if they bring someone in like a cornerback position, but I do think from the one play we saw from Terrence Ferguson and the lack of there's no production there. They're not even targeting the tight ends, like not even looking at them whatsoever as a large part of the offensive game plan. Do we see that open up? I think so. I think within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we start getting slowly drip fed more Terrence Ferguson. I don't see any other way. That's just my thought. I'm hopeful though. How do you feel about that?
So I know I just spent an hour being negative. I am very positive about this situation. In fact, I feel more confident about this team after this game than I did before, even though we just spent a fast hour just shit talking.
Yeah.
Well, yes, well done, Ms. Tuna. But when you see how they took this loss, there was no blame except for blaming themselves. McVay went to the podium, put it all on his shoulders. Stafford immediately went up and said, "That's a 1 yard. We gotta convert. Like let's not trying to take the piss.
Time out 1 second. Time out 1 second. So someone's right here. I got to address this. JJ Guzman, I got a call. You need to run home. You forgot to fill up water in your mom's dish. Please make sure you address that. But Brock, back to you. While you were finishing that, you were talking about the mood in the locker room. Please do tell us as well in your answer that mood as well. Like add that piece in there too, because that's uber important.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Zero blame, full accountability. Everyone thinks that they individually caused the loss. It's odd, and a positive way, because that's what championship teams are made of, right? Like Vayner's like, I need to call plays better. Stafford is like, it's a yard, we need to get it, right? Like Kyron is like, I've messed up, I need to be better. Everyone was like, no finger pointing, no this, no that. Monte was like, we need to play better complementary football. Like whatever defense was stepping up, offense needs to step up. The offense is stepping up, defense needs to step up. Like it needs to be better. Like everyone was on that. I spoke to Aubrey Pleasant, that's assistant head coach, multiple times, and they live by this phrase: "You will not find an enemy on our sideline." They believe it, like they live it every day. So I think that this loss is a catalyst for a lot of things that we're going to see. Sean McVay, again, is a brilliant tactician, a phenomenal leader, and he knows how to let a fire into somebody's ass. So I think that this team is going to be uber motivated, because it wasn't the Eagles game where they can say, damn, we were so close, but we just couldn't execute in this situation. No, this is a loss that hits the core, because as much trash talking as Jared Verse does to the city of Philadelphia, there's a tremendous love there, right? This is just straight up hate, all right? And I know this because I got 49ers beat writers quoting my stuff, and like it's a weird thing. But it's not, again, not the point. I'm like a Rams fan. Like, I mean, I want the guys to do well, kind of cover the team, because I see the work that they put in, because they're great people. But it's not my team, so I don't know what we're getting at here. But again, beside the point. I also look at how the Rams have handled these situations in the past. When you look back at that 2023 season, to go down 3-6 on your record, and then fire all the way back to go and make the playoffs. Last year, they're what, 1-4, 1-5 to start the season. They lost to Caleb Williams as a rookie and Matt Eberflus as the head coach, right? That should have been disaster. And then what happened? They go on and they win the division. The Rams.
I hated that game so much.
Who wouldn't, right? Yeah. I would hate it too if I was.
This comment is just agreeing with you, by the way. It's just agreeing with you. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Right. So they have handled these situations in the past. I think that we're going to see a different Rams team against Baltimore. I think they're going to be much more succinct. I think that having the need to key in on another top running back is taxing, but now that they have at least a few days to do so, more than expected, more than they had for Christian McCaffrey, they're going to be able to rest their bodies a little bit more, so they can be much more mentally, less mentally fatigued and also physically. And then I think Chris Shula, that's where the difference is going to be. I think he recognizes the issue of the cornerback room, and the only way to counter it is, like we've been talking about, find new ways to bring pressure. What we've seen him do is use Byron Young in the Michael Hoyt role, then use Jared Verse, as you saw last week against Tanner Fortellini, who first buried him into the ground. And then we saw it again with Josiah Stewart. So I think that he's going to get much more unique in the way that he's going to design his rushes. I think we're going to see a lot more Jalen McCullough, especially on those kind of later down situations. Nate Landon in the locker room was also talking about how we need to be better on first and second down so we can, implement our pass rushing strategy on third down in a much more effective way. I think we're going to see that. And then from an offensive standpoint, I don't think there can be any scheme changes. So I think they're just going to give the ball to Matthew and say, go win it for us. And then that's going to try to open up everything else. I think we're also going to see a much more motivated Blake Corum, because after he immediately comes to the game, has a phenomenal 14-yard run, weaving in and out, perfect for the system, because he kind of
great draw play. Great draw
just lost, right? They know how to get him rolling. Then he fumbles and they don't go back to him, which I understand, because you cannot do that in the NFL. What he did with that drop and the fumble and losing it. especially on that part of the field. But I think that he's going to be much more motivated. I think Williams is going to do this with the ball a lot more in the red zone. And I think that we saw something with Kyle Williams as a receiver today that I've been kind of advocating for. So I think he's going to be much more active in the pass game. And for me, if I was had any type of influence on the Rams, in my opinion, it's Puka Nakua's season. Like he is the front runner for the Triple Crown. He's leading the NFL in reception. He's leading the NFL in receiving yards. He just knocked his second receiving touchdown, a touchdown in back-to-back games. This is the time to say, Devontae Adams, you're a really great Robert Woods, but Puka leads the way. I think that to the institution, a lot more emotion. I think that they're going to be able to free up him, and by doing that, you're going to free up Devontae, and by doing that, they're really going to be able to free up Tutu for those deep shots. I think that we're going to see Stafford that can go deep down, target downfield a bit more, which should force defenses to go into those two high safety concepts, which in theory should open up the running game underneath. So to sum it all up, right? Much more motivated, better execution, better succinct product,
better pizza. We are not sponsored by Papa John's. Sorry.
Yeah. No, trust me. I know about the apartment I live in. I'm definitely not sponsored by Papa John's. And then because of that, the pass is going to open up the run, and then that is going to create a phenomenon I have titled Peak McVay, which is essentially balls to the wall offense. Our defense is better than you, and we're going to score at will, like we saw in the past. And I think that this is going to be the catalyst to seeing that again, because we're going to institute a bunch of different things, especially Terrence Ferguson, who I think is going to have a much bigger role as things go on starting next week.
Well said. You got me ready to run through a wall. You got me feeling a little sweaty over here in my sweater, talking about high-powered offenses, Brock. You can't do that to me, man. You know that's my favorite thing. I am.
McVay has a championship lineage. His grandfather built the 49ers. If there's any guy I would put money on to figure it out, it's him.
I like the concept, and actually, we're going to talk about that more off screen during the week. It's a reverse rather than using the run to set up the pass. Use the pass to set up the run. But, sir, last thing I'm going to say to the fans right now, I'm glad that you are so knowledgeable and everything. If you guys do not know who this man is, but you've been tuning in, we have quite a few folks in here, and I'm surprised. Why are you folks up at 1 a.m.? Can you not sleep after the game?
They're pissed. That's why. What do you mean? Why? Because they wanted to have a next Thursday, and they got ruined. And now they're going to go work tomorrow. They're upset.
I know some of y'all got to be up about 5 hours. You're sitting here listening to us. But if you guys do not know who this man is, this is Brock Vierra of Rams on SI. We met training camp. Love the way you approach the game. Love that you care about how you write about players with utmost respect. That is number one for me. Appreciate your work, sir. Make sure you follow him at Brock Vierra on Twitter. And I'm actually going to pop it up because I am not smart with StreamYard and I couldn't bring your thing up. So for y'all, real quick, while we close out, at Brock Vierra, Rams beat writer on SI. He's behind the scenes. He is a real journalist. We bring real journalists on here. But, sir, thank you for the insight, the positivity to end the show out. Everyone go show him some love. Tune into him. Articles are great. Great insight. Always on time as well. And I guess go Rams? Yeah.
Whose house?
Niners said it's their house, but we'll get it back. We pay the bills. We'll get it back here. But anyways, tap in. We'll see you guys tomorrow. And yeah, Brock, don't leave. We'll end the stream here. But